For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas. We begin in the Middle East, where U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry continues to seek support from traditional Arab allied nations into Washington's plans to broaden attacks against Islamic State militants in Iraq and Syria. Kerry obtained backing from 10 staunch U.S. supporters in the region, including Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, and from Gulf nations Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Those countries pledge military support to fight the Sunni militants. Saudi Arabia also offered territory and support to train Syrian rebels. Even though the ceasefire in Ukraine continues to hold, European Union leaders agreed this Thursday to apply new sanctions against Russia starting on Friday, insisting Moscow has intervened in the conflict in eastern Ukraine. U.S. leaders also say their country is preparing fresh sanctions. Russia maintains that it has never intervened militarily in the region and calls the sanctions an act of aggression.
This is an absolutely unfriendly policy, which among others contradicts the European Union's interests as well. The Russian political leadership has already made it clear to politicians of various levels that we will take adequate measures and our response will be proportional to the damage which these sanctions cause to the economies of our state.
Former Colombian President Ernesto Samper was officially sworn in today as the General Secretary of the Union of South American Nations. He divided his objectives into the term into three broad areas.
I am trying to focus on three main agendas, which aim to reduce inequality through social inclusion. We have made lots of progress in terms of poverty reduction. We continue to be highly unequal. The second item is based on the region's natural resources, which is our greatest source of wealth, and we hope to add value to these resources. Now we are simply selling the raw material that we extract from the earth, and the final point includes a political agenda, which will be primarily centered at ensuring physical security.
The Argentina government has approved a new debt restructuring law that aims to sidestep a ruling in favor of vulture fund creditors. For more on how this law will be implemented, here's our correspondent in Argentina, Leonel Poblete.
The lower house of Argentina's National Congress is debating right now the initiative which proposes to declare Argentina's debt restructuring as a matter of public interest, which acknowledges all of Argentina's bondholders in fair, equitable, legal and sustainable conditions. It also includes the creation of a permanent parliamentary commission for the investigation of the origin of Argentina's foreign debt, its management and its payment as well. This bill, presented by the Argentine executive, which has already been approved by the upper house, is expected to be approved by the lower house and converted into law either late Wednesday night or in the early hours of Thursday morning. Once the law is approved by the Argentine National Congress, the Argentine government will proceed to deposit the funds of the next due amount to all its bondholders, including the vulture funds. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks to Leonel. And in Colombia, our correspondent Charles Parkinson has met a human rights defender among 91 whose lives have been threatened in what appears to be a reaction to the advances being made in the country's peace process.
For Alberto Yepes, the death threat he received on September 8th was the first in 24 years as a human rights defender in Colombia. Yepes appeared alongside 90 other human rights defenders on an email list issued by paramilitary group the Águilas Negras, or Black Eagles.
They say they know where our families are, and we are going to be murdered.
According to Yepes, the closeness of a peace deal is causing fear amongst the powerful figures that control these organizations.
They sense the imminence of a peace process that will demand things to be cleared up. These criminal organizations have been terrorizing the population, and social organizations in some way have to discover who is behind all that, and these groups see that as a threat.
The threats come at a time when victims are taking center stage at peace negotiations in Havana, and notably were issued by a group in the past linked to state agents.
We see these organizations as having an intimate relationship with military intelligence. That is, they have always operated, have always functioned in this way. And they are the ones who are opposed to this type of negotiation and the recognition of the rights of victims.
So while it may be that while the Colombian government negotiates how to deal with victimization, agents of the state are involved in illegal attempts to damage the peace process. These threats serve as a startling reminder that while headway is being made in Havana to address the plight of the country's victims, here in Colombia, victims continue to be generated by a paramilitary threat that has never gone away. Charles Parkinson, Telesur, in Bogota, Colombia.
And thanks to Charles. As Scotland's independence movement continues to gain momentum, some other regions hope the country's possible split from the UK could have implications in their own independence push. In the Catalonian region of Spain, almost 2 million people flooded the streets of Barcelona to demand the right to vote on a split from Spain. The protesters were dressed in red and yellow, the colors of the Catalan flag. They formed a V for vote in a show of support for holding a referendum. The march was held in a festive atmosphere on Catalonia's National Day, La Diada. The United Nations confirmed today that all 45 peacekeepers from Fiji being held captive by the al-Qaeda-linked group the Nusra Front have been freed. The Fijians were kidnapped 2 weeks ago when Islamist fighters entered the frontier area between Syria and Israel, where the peacekeepers were stationed. The troops arrived in the Israel-held territory of the Golan Heights earlier today. They were reportedly unharmed and in good health. We now go to the U.S. city of Chicago, where a rare species has been unveiled. A giant fossil which was unearthed in the Sahara Desert has given scientists an unprecedented look at the largest known carnivorous dinosaur, which also happens to be the first waterbound species of its type.
We have probably the most bizarre dinosaur out there. It's a huge predatory dinosaur called Spinosaurus, and it's unlike any other predatory dinosaur we've ever seen before. It has a big sail on its back, it has long, slender, narrow jaws, and it's the first semi-aquatic dinosaur.
More on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.